Hello, hello, Burjone boy, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Are you hopefully not wrecked by what's happening with Luna and everything else? You're about to see me in a second. I haven't shown it yet because I have to I have to let this marinate. I gotta let this marinate. Plus, I also have a public service announcement. The following is not to be construed as financial advice. All right, now that we got the particulars out of the way, it's been a wild last couple days. Luna had all sorts of problems. UST had all sorts of problems. Terra had all sorts of problems. And now we're speculating that it was a coordinated attack designed to bring down the Terra situation, even to the point that it was getting basically disabled on exchanges. The blockchain went down. And so now they're speculating that there was actually an attack. I haven't followed Terra or Luna or UST rather, close enough to be able to say yeah or nay up or down. I don't know. I will tell you this though. To see UST, which was so supposedly a stable coin, lose its peg and arguably crash and burn like nothing I've ever seen, I don't know how that happened. I'm not sure what got to that point where we see this kind of a thing happening, honestly. And I suspect there's something to this. I suspect that there is something behind the scenes that's, yes, definitely causing that. But it's, again, unusual when you see something like this where a so called stablecoin loses its peg. That is very unusual, doesn't happen very often. And I'm wondering myself if there's more to it than just the basics that this lost its peg. Like maybe they never really had the funds to peg it correctly in the first place. That's what I might think. But again, I've not followed it close enough to be able to say yay or nay or up or down. So I'm not going to say. But I got a story to tell. Notorious Big 1997 because everything has been crashing before this. Bitcoin, Ethereum. Ethereum went down below $2,000 for the first time in a very long time. Again, remember, Ethereum was well over $4,500 at a point. So to see it go this low, it makes one wonder, was there something larger happening where it's not just a regular coordinated attack, it's actually much more strategic than that? And with Bitcoin, somebody on social media actually made the argument. When you have all these currencies and they back their stuff with Bitcoin and then they run out, well, you can't print anymore. So if it was never really solvent to begin with, meaning it didn't have enough funds to sustain what it was trying to do, then maybe it's actually a good thing that it fails, as opposed to what we saw with too big to fail in the banking market on the fiat side. Rather, you now have the bad actors or the insufficient actors get washed out because they're not able to support with cryptocurrency having something in the back. This spurred a very interesting conversation. How can you have true descent if you're still essentially tied to fiat and to other cryptocurrencies? By which I'm saying, we know now, based on this recent activity, that all of the primary tokens in some way are backed by Bitcoin to some degree, because when Bitcoin craps, they all crap, including Ethereum. So if it's true that Bitcoin is ultimately running everything under the hood, how is that any different from a central bank? And that was the analogy somebody made on Twitter. Well, let's say for argument's sake that this is what we're in. That's what we're dealing with. Bitcoin's value, I've said, Bitcoin's value is artificial. It's fake. It's not real. It's perceptive. And it was based on a world of true scarcity, but also at a time difficult to obtain, and I would argue not heavily used for anything. So it was more collectible. And then how hard to get it, right? The mining gets more difficult, so it gets harder to attain more of it, which appears to have contributed to the price. But also, big banks and big organizations start buying into this, which seems to pump the price. Makes people think perhaps Bitcoin arguably was nothing more than a pump and dump. And if it was a pump and dump, now we're at the low point and it's still going down, but we're arguably at a low point. But when it goes back up again, will we have more pump and dump behaviors beyond what we're seeing now? And then what does that mean? What does that mean for the future? What does that mean for where we're at as a society and for like El Salvador that adopted Bitcoin as their key crypto? What does all that mean? And it raises some very intriguing questions for the future of cryptocurrency and how we use it and what it's used for and what we're going to do. So I decided that I had to make a decision for my portfolio. Now, fortunately for me, I never tossed significant amounts of money in any project unless I was able to take profits out. So, for example, when I bought into Saitama, I must have put like $100 in it at front, somewhere $50 to $100. And as it was climbing, I took profits all the way up. I was taking profits, taking profits, taking profits. Basically, I basically bought 5 billion of it, and I would sell 1 billion each time that I saw that doing so would get me $100. So I made a pretty good amount of money, and then I was left with 1 billion. And then when they had the failed Vegas event, I basically sold that out because I knew that it wasn't going to recover in the short term. I knew that this was a long-term play, and we weren't going to be able to get past this anytime in the near future. I knew this. I knew this in the firmness of my heart. So I said, I'm going to let this last million go. Later, when I saw that it was starting to bottom out before this issue, I decided to let my mining PC mine some more of it because then I'm not paying out of pocket for it. And I'll regret that. Right now it's mining BNB because I ran out of some BNB and I don't want to pay for it. I have a story about that. So now I figured, okay, I have very little left in any cryptocurrency, hardly at all. And then Libero comes along. And with Libero, I only put, it must have been like 40 bucks ish when I did the pre-sale. 40 bucks. And that $40, I watched it as people started buying in, when people got wise to what this was, because nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew. They were advertising it, but nobody knew what was really going on. So I was one of the earliest in the pre-sale. And I remember there were still slots available when it wrapped up. So I knew I was in early. So I saw this thing double over and over and over and over again. And I was taking profits each time. Then once I got my return back, which was basically off the first cash out, I pretty much got my investment back. I tossed a little bit more in, tiny little bit, doubles again, take profits. A little bit in, doubles again, take profits. I did this like 3 or 4 times. Then I stopped investing in it. No more new money. It wasn't that I wasn't confident. I wasn't willing to gamble. It's still doubling. I took profits 7 times. Off the 7 times, I had so much that I said, all right, now I want to be smart about this because there's got to be something to this. Whether it's legit or not doesn't even matter now. There's got to be something to this. So I took surplus money that I had gotten and I tossed it back into Libero Bank when it released and locked it for the 4 years because I knew I didn't care if I lost it. I already had my money back and then some. I didn't care if I lost every last dime of this thing. In Libero Bank, I'm watching it grow. And I think I started at 20 bucks and it got to 200 something dollars in the bank. Meanwhile, you're getting the Libero rewards. Ex Libero supports the Libero reward distribution and Binance USD rewards. And I'm constantly what they call compounding, which ain't, it's really a buyback. I'm constantly doing the buyback to buy back into Libero again and again and again and again and again. Because I'm like, let me just increase the bag. And I'm like, whatever. And whatever will be, que sera, sera. And I cash out Libero and I redeposit it in there. Yes, I eat the gas and it's like 60 cents. But you're talking at that time, $3 worth of additional, $3 additional, $3 additional, true compounding now. I've since left that in there, never touched it because you can't, it's 4 years. But I was cool leaving it in there. I didn't care if I lost everything in that bank. Still really don't. When this all happens with the Bitcoin and Ethereum, everything as far as price starts crapping out. They all crap out. And I have to make a decision because I don't have a lot in any cryptocurrency right now. Even Everrise, I don't have a significant amount in it. I have the 1 NFT and it's a smallish amount and it's really there to buy me some time. So I had a place to invest later because you can add to the bag later in the staking pool. So I knew I could just create a stake and then add to it later and not worry about it. And I had a decision to make because I speculated with this crypto crash, there's an opportunity to stack bags for the projects that I'm comfortable with, the projects that I'm confident would last the test of time and survive this storm. Like this is really going to weed out the real robust tokens, the ones that have backing, the ones that have stability, the ones that have a good process and a good program and they're worth a damn. This is going to flesh those one out like quail versus the ones that are just garbage and they're just going to be dead animals in the grass. So I figured this is an opportunity. I should toss a little bit of money in there. And I purposely have held off for months, not investing in anything to a significant degree. You're talking like $3, $4, and it was always mining profits. It was never out of cash, never, ever refused. I changed my mind. And here's what's going to surprise you. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I basically gave up, possibly temporarily, on covering Libero Financial because their devs are arrogant and they don't want to talk to me, which is okay. I actually bought some more Libero. But here's the thing. When I go back to some of my previous updates where I said, you know, some people were saying I should just do Libera. There's no reason to do Libero. Libera's where the value is. Libera's where we're going to make the money. Doesn't seem to be a value of Libero. It's been abandoned and all this stuff. And I said, Libera cannot exist without Libero. Libero is the foundation of what makes Libera work. And so you're free to just pick one over the other. That's fine. Nobody can tell you what to do with your money. But I've never been sold on just jumping to Libera until it's on the actual centralized exchange, which it isn't yet. And I suspected it wouldn't be. Once it's there, you don't have the gas in your way, and you're necessarily going to get higher volume because it's on the exchange, and people have a lot of their money stored in the exchanges. So I have like maybe $5 worth of Libera, which now is about $4 worth with the drops. But it's only 4 Libera tokens. And I had a choice to make. If I'm going to buy into this Libero ecosystem, which should I choose? Knowing I had a budget, I was only going to spend $100 for now. Next week, I should be getting my first payout from my endeavor. If that payout goes like it's supposed to, for the amount it's supposed to be, then I'm going to toss a little bit of money into whatever crypto I chose. So I had a really strong decision to make here. And I decided I would toss it in Libero, not Libera. I'm about to tell you why I made such a decision. Libero's price went down. It went steeply down when Libera started going down as well. Libera spiked at like $280, or excuse me, $2.80 for each token when people were buying off the FOMO. This is just decentralized exchange. No problem. But then Libero is going down after that pump died off, which is expected. Lower volume, lower price, makes sense, no surprises. But I still bought into Libero. I bought the dip. Its price now, Libero, is lower than the pre-sale. And that was the reason, that's what enticed me to buy into Libero, because it's lower than the pre-sale. And I know on the pre-sale how much I was able to get for a really good amount of money. So I knew that this was the better investment. It was able to get me 6 figures of Libero, which for me in my budget would never have been possible before this thing started going down. And so as a result, my rewards, the Binance USD rewards, right now, because the price is down, I described, the way their reward structure is different than other tokens. They pay you in Binance USD. It pays directly to the holder. It doesn't pay back to the contract. Right now, that APR is almost 1,200%. That's nuts. It's nuts. The amount of Libero rewards you get goes down, but the amount of Binance USD goes up. And it's based on your percentage of share. So the total in the pool, which is just shy of a trillion, I believe, somewhere around there. And you have a certain percentage of that whole share. And whatever your percentage is the percentage of the benefits pool. So I figured if I stack now when the price is an all-time low, If Bitcoin is able to get back to and possibly higher than 60,000, we're going to see some really aggressive pumps from the strong cryptos that lasted. And that means that my bag, as it stands, would be 10x. Like if we were at normal pricing, it would be 10x right now. That intrigued me because to do 10x, I wanted to toss enough money in there that I can get five figures of a bag without having to put five figures in. So that means I put four figures in there, wait for it to 10x, and now it's a five-figure bag. But I can still keep dumping in there before it grows again. Now, some people speculated that projects like Seifu, which is it's almost near its all-time entry point, Titano, which I exposed, it's like there's some sort of problem there. Libero, some people have speculated these projects are not going to be able to survive this because of the unrealistic APY. And they may be right. But here's the thing, though, folks. I did some digging on Libero, and I chose not to display anything because I don't want to improperly expose something that might be like not a trade secret, but like the car salesman, he might try to steal this technique or something. But under Libero, when I was looking at the liquidity pool for Libero during this whole fiasco, it occurred to me that Libero's liquidity pool is going up, not down. Well, that's odd because everything else's liquidity pool is hurting big time. So what is it they're doing different? How is it that they're doing that? They have $4 million in their liquidity pool, even though volume has been trending down. That's fine that volume is trending down, but also we're seeing a lot of sells. When you have a lot of sells, we should be seeing the liquidity pool draining because obviously you're selling. You're to pay somebody, right, for the tokens that they're giving you back. That's not happening with Libero, at least not to the degree I would have expected. So when I dug a little bit deeper, it turns out that the Libero smart contract is smarter than I gave them credit for. Because what it does is it's got, and I didn't do a clean count, but I'm going to estimate probably about 4 different streams of revenue that are powering the liquidity pool from what I can tell as I read the blockchain on this. So if you know how to read blockchain transactions, you are free to check out Libero's contract and either call me out on it if I misread something. But I looked at it and it looks to me like there's about 4 different streams. Some of these streams are thorium, which that was intriguing because but it would explain why thorium's price is going down. Some of these streams came from Multiverse Capital, which makes sense because Multiverse Capital is a farming deal. Those two surprised me. They make sense, but they surprise me because they don't advertise that they do that. They don't advertise that they use Multiverse Capital's farming to support the liquidity pool for Libero Financial. They don't mention that at all. It makes perfect sense in the world, but they don't mention that at all anywhere in the documentation. They mention that it's powered by thorium, but they don't mention how, and they don't mention what, they don't mention where, they don't mention any of this data. So now I'm wondering, okay, I am genuinely intrigued at what I'm seeing here. I think that there's something to this. So I go a little bit deeper. The other two streams, here's where it gets interestingly cool. I started seeing some functions in the blockchain that were referring to bear and bull. And that's kind of odd in a smart contract. Bear and bull are, I know the terms, but a smart contract, I wouldn't expect to say these things. It turns out that the contract appears to be actually placing bets, and this is a legitimate thing. It's placing bets on PancakeSwap, and then it's getting it right because they know what the movement of the price of these are going to be because they're part of the liquidity pool, right? So they know when things are going to be up or down or whatnot, and they're placing bets, and then they're getting payouts off this, which keeps replenishing and adding. So it's kind of like they're getting paid essentially for interacting with the PancakeSwap liquidity pool, but also with this separate function that they're calling. That's huge because first off, I didn't realize the smart contract could be coded to do that. It's cool. It's really cool. And it makes me wonder, it makes me curious about the potential. the future potential. Like, could you imagine if you could replicate that same thing on QuickSwap, which is Polygon, Trader Joe, which is Avalanche, Elk Finance, which is just the Elk deal, Spooky Swap, which is Phantom, Kronos. Could you imagine if you could figure out how to do that same thing on multiple of the different swaps so that every single network that you're farming is not just that you're farming cryptocurrencies per se and using their value to strengthen your project, but you're also able to leverage this and bank off of the actual price movement of those coins in your favor. So normally, if a crypto's on BNB and BNB goes down, that crypto is going to be harmed, right? Financially. Here, it's like, wait a minute. If BNB gets harmed and we know it's about to be harmed, we still get paid because we called that. And it's a pretty good ratio too. We're not talking chump change. And I tried to find other contracts that do this, and I can't find any that do that. So if you know of ones that do that, I'd love to smoke. But seeing that they do that, seeing that they have all these multiple avenues where they're pulling money in to support this project tells me that they're serious about keeping it stable. And it told me that Libero is where they see the future. It's not Libera. They see it the way I described it, which is that Libera is supporting Libero's success. Given this, I tossed a little bit more money into Libero, just enough to get me to six figures in the bank, with the plan being that I would still increase basis, so basically the fiat, over time as kind of a buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip situation until I see that it's bottomed out and it's about to go back up again. So I'm not going all in. It's not a YOLO. I'm not tossing thousands of dollars at this yet, but I am tossing enough to maintain a certain level of investment in it, a certain dollar amount. And it's going down, it's dipping. So I'm going to keep putting in until I maintain that position. I'm not going to go above that position. I'm going to keep that position because my theory is if everything recovers like I speculate that it will, by the time that it does, that position is going to be huge. It's going to be somewhere in the mid five figures by the time it's all done, even though I might have tossed, in terms of fiat, it's like $300 at the thing, maybe. But it gets to like mid five figures. That's huge. That's a huge return. That's a crazy return. And if I pull that off, right, now I can always sell for profits. It's in the bank. So everything that's coming rewards is all profit, and use those profits, which now should be minimum two, three, $10 a day, whatever, and just toss that in the Libera on the side. But it's basically them paying themselves, right? And that's kind of what I thought I was going to do. Once again, I want to stress, this was a hard decision because I had to choose. Am I going to invest in Everrise, which I really thought about doing? I seriously thought about it, versus Libero, versus Market Move, and two others that I'm really confident on these myself. And it was a hard choice, but I really needed to focus on Libero when I saw what they were doing to stabilize its value during this tough time. Even though the price is going down, the amount people are getting paid is going up, and that really appealed to me. So as long as I hedge my bet and don't toss full on YOLO into it, and it's all throwaway money, and it's not like it's not truly throwaway money, but I can afford it. I'm just really frugal right now, but I can afford it. And then once the payment comes in next week, I'm certainly not going to worry about it beyond that. I just had to get to one uh, level set. Now was the time, perfect timing. I even debated tossing and buying off dip on Satama. The only reason I didn't do that is because I don't like the team, and I don't trust the team, and I don't trust the cult leader. And as long as they're in it, I know that it's not going to succeed because it's the people, not the project. The project's fine. It's been fine. I don't trust the people. So I said I'm not going to do Satama as much as tempting as it is because it's about to be lower than my original buy-in point, which means I could buy, billions and billions of tokens, but I had to fight the resistance, Shiv didn't drop that much, So there was no reason to buy into that one at all. And it doesn't do anything. Paratoken dropped quite a bit, but I wasn't going to buy into that because, again, incompetent leadership. And I didn't want to support that garbage. ID dropped even more than it was already hurting. I was really tempted to buy into that one. Only reason I didn't is, again, they got a long road to go to recover from the loss of liquidity. So this is a hard decision, folks. This is a really difficult decision. And what I guess I'm telling you is there really are smart contracts out there that are trying to change the game, that are trying to be innovative and really change the game. And those are the ones that are going to be worth my money in the long term because this kind of turmoil, this kind of challenge in the crypto space, seeing the projects that can weather this kind of a storm, they're going to be the ones that are going to last to the next period, unless they screw themselves up. But the ones that fall out from this, and we're going to have to wait and see. I'm curious to see which projects can't sustain this, which projects just can't support what's going on, and they die on the vine because they were never built to survive something like this. Like Elephant Money, I covered that a while ago. It had never recovered even before this issue. And then now with this issue, it's even worse. So I think there's something there. I'll call out before I close Hex. It went down, but nowhere near as much because it was pegged to USDC, which is another stable coin. And USDC arguably is pegged to the US dollar, so it has a little bit more stability to it. But now it gave me more confidence that Pulse Chain is going to be something big because it means they architected their solution to weather storms like this. So as I'm thinking again, now as I'm adjusting strategy over time, it's like, that's what I want. The projects that can weather this kind of catastrophe and come out stronger, they're the ones that deserve my money. And I'm curious now if that's going to be, I think Ethereum will be okay. When ETH2O comes out, I think Ethereum will be okay. I suspect Bitcoin will be okay. Who knows though? And if Bitcoin's okay, all of the gas tokens will be okay, just by proxy. I suspect this to be the case. As far as stable coins, I think we're going to have to rethink that model because we're going to have to figure out some way to stabilize those things. And if we're not willing to go back to gold, which I figure we're not, I'm not sure where we go from here as far as the stable coins go. That's all I got for you guys. Again, I'm not giving you advice on what to do or how to do it. I just figured I'd share the story that with all this turmoil, I looked at Libero again and I saw what they were doing, and it gave me more confidence in a long-term build, that they built it to weather things like this. And I'm going to watch it, and I don't have a lot of money in there, so if I lose it, I lose it. It's not a big deal. It's all in the bank. It's throwaway. It's surplus essentially because of how much profit I took. So if it craps, it craps. But I'm going to strategically just keep upping it to keep that basis because it's still profit anyway. And just watch it, see what happens. And if this all turns around and Libero gets back up to peak when things turn around, this is going to be a very interesting ride for me. And I might even consider going back to cover Libero again if it turns around, because at that point, it means that they're serious. They're just arrogant. That's all I got, folks. I will check in with you guys probably tomorrow-ish. Actually, yes, tomorrow. We go live with our Triad members. If you're not in Triad, cryptotalkradio.net, check it out. And our Triad members get a dedicated video of things that are happening. And that might be of interest to you if you want to know what's going on with the brand and the show and everything else. And then I will do one of these, and that's going to be a different type of coverage. That's going to be around a cryptocurrency other than the ones I've been talking about here so far. So it'll probably be around the same bat time, same bat channel. Have not decided, but more than likely. Till then, I'll see you later. And YouTube, please behave, because so far it's been working really well. Don't mess up on me.